On the far reaches of the galaxy, Xylaris 7 stood as an unyielding sentinel of nature's fury, a planet so hostile that even the boldest explorers declared it impossible to tame. Yet, in its cracked and smoldering surface, a discovery shattered everything the universe believed about humanity's past: human footprints perfectly preserved, older than the very concept of space travel. Who had left them, and how? As the mystery deepened, it became clear that this wasn't just a story of exploration, it was a journey into the unknown fabric of reality itself. The planet known as Xylaris 7 had long been a subject of unique fascination for scientists, explorers, and adventurers across the galaxy. Its existence was a testament to nature's brutality, a world that defied the laws of probability by remaining untouched and unconquered. Its atmosphere was a toxic swirl of gases that stripped protective suits in minutes, rendering breathable air an impossible luxury. The surface was a shifting nightmare of volcanic plains, acidic oceans, and razor-sharp crystalline spires that jutted from the ground like the teeth of some gargantuan beast. Those brave enough or foolish enough to land on Xylaris 7 were met with a gauntlet of peril. The planet's gravity was unpredictable, fluctuating in violent spasms that could crush equipment or send entire landing modules hurtling into the sky. Lightning storms raged with no warning, carrying with them electromagnetic pulses strong enough to disable even the most advanced shielding. To venture there was to gamble one's life against the unyielding forces of nature, a gamble that very few won. Yet despite its hostility, Xylaris 7 was not forgotten. Stories spread like wildfire through the interstellar networks, tales of relics found in its churning seas, of structures briefly sighted through the haze, and of few unexplained signals echoing from its deadliest peaks. While most of these were written off as exaggerations or hoaxes, they fueled the collective imagination of those who lived for discovery. It was during a routine sweep of archival data from long-lost probes that the mystery truly began. A forgotten drone, launched centuries earlier by a now defunct human exploration initiative, had captured a set of images from the planet's surface. These images were far from perfect, blurry, distorted by the planet's harsh conditions, and marked by decay over time. Yet one detail was unmistakable, embedded in a patch of volcanic rock footprints. They were human footprints. The shape and proportion left no room for doubt. Clear impressions of soles and toes, they mirrored the patterns made by humans walking in soft earth or sand. But this was not soft earth, this was hardened volcanic rock, the kind that could only capture such detail while molten. The implications were as profound as they were impossible. The footprints were dated back more than 15,000 years, a time when humanity had barely learned to farm, let alone look to the stars. Every known fact about humanity's past and its place in the universe contradicted the very existence of these marks. The discovery sent shockwaves through the galactic community. If humans had somehow reached Xylaris 7 millennia before the invention of space travel, what did that say about the history they thought they knew? Speculation erupted. Were these the marks of time travelers, evidence of an ancient precursor species, or something even stranger? The forbidden planet, once feared and ignored, became the center of a mystery that promised to reshape humanity's understanding of its own origins. The discovery of human footprints on Xylaris 7 stirred a frenzy of debate across the Galactic Union. Some claimed it was a hoax, a product of faulty data or wishful thinking, while others believed it was evidence of a long-lost human legacy. To resolve the mystery, the Union sanctioned a mission that few would volunteer for: an expedition to the most hostile planet known. Dr. Linka Solvex, a renowned human archaeologist, accepted the challenge. For her, this wasn't just a scientific endeavor. It was a chance to uncover a truth that had eluded humanity for millennia. Dr. Solvex's team was as elite as they came, composed of experts from diverse fields: geologists, biologists, engineers, and astrophysicists, each selected to overcome the unique challenges Xylaris 7 would throw at them. Their ship, The Eureka's Edge was equipped with state-of-the-art technology designed to withstand the planet's violent conditions. Advanced AI monitored environmental changes in real time, while specialized drones carried out tasks too dangerous for human explorers. Despite their preparation, a pall of uncertainty hung over the crew. Geiselaris 7 had chewed up and spit out far more experienced teams, leaving behind only scattered wreckage and grim tales. The journey to the planet was fraught with challenges from the outset. As the Eureka's Edge approached the outer atmosphere, sensors flared with warnings of magnetic disturbances and unpredictable weather patterns. The planet seemed to reject their presence, sending violent winds and jagged bolts of lightning crashing against the ship's hull. Even the advanced shielding groaned under the onslaught, and the crew felt every jarring impact as they descended. Breaking through the dense, churning cloud cover, the surface of Alaris 7 unfolded below them like a vision of primordial chaos. Rivers of molten lava wove through sharp, obsidian-like mountains, while a sky glowed red with sulfuric haze. Towering crystal formations glittered dangerously, reflecting the hellish glow of the terrain. It was a landscape as beautiful as it was deadly, a place that defied every notion of survival. The team's first challenge was simply to land. The planet's surface was a shifting mosaic of fragile plateaus and bubbling lava flats, any of which could collapse without warning. The ship's AI identified a narrow shelf of rock that seemed stable enough, but even that site was fraught with risk. As the landing struts made contact, the ground shuddered as though resisting their arrival. Once on the ground, the team wasted no time. Donning reinforced atmosphere suits, they stepped into the scalding, acrid air and began the trek toward the coordinates provided by the probe. The planet immediately lived up to its reputation. Heat waves distorted their vision, and the ground beneath them seethed with unpredictable energy. Steam vents erupted without warning, and the sound of shifting rocks echoed like a warning growl from the planet itself. Hours later, they arrived at the site. The footprints were exactly as the probe's images had depicted, perfectly preserved in volcanic rock. As the team stared in silence, the weight of their discovery began to sink in. This wasn't just a mystery, it was a revelation, one that promised to shake the foundations of everything humanity believed about its past. The team stood in awe at the sight of the footprints, their presence a stark defiance of everything known about Sirius 7. Encased in hardened volcanic rock, the footprints were more than just clear impressions. They were a message preserved by team itself. Each line, each curve was impossibly precise, as though the molten surface had captured them in the exact moment they were made. The footprints were not weathered or degraded, despite thousands of years of exposure to the planet's hostile conditions. Measurements were quickly taken. The prints were consistent in size and shape with the average human foot, their proportions too accurate to be coincidental. Depth analysis showed subtle variations in pressure distribution, the kind that would occur naturally with a walking gait. These weren't artificial carvings or geological anomalies. They were made by something or someone human. The dating process only deepened the mystery. Using portable chronometric analysis tools, the team determined that the rock had solidified approximately 15,000 years ago. This placed the creation of the footprints at a time when humanity was still in the late Stone Age, confined to Earth and struggling to develop basic agricultural practices. The idea that humans could have traveled across space to Sirius 7 at such a time was not just unlikely, it was supposedly impossible. Yet the evidence was undeniable. The rock, formed from lava that had cooled and solidified, would have been molten and highly viscous when the footprints were impressed upon it. The only logical conclusion was that a human, or something human-like, had walked across the surface of Sirius 7 while the lava was cooling, thousands of years before humanity had the means to leave Earth. As the team studied the site, they noticed something else, a subtle, unnatural pattern around the footprints. Tiny cracks radiated outward from the impressions, forming a geometric shape that resembled a fractal. This pattern was too regular to be a natural occurrence, leading to speculation that it might be a marker of some kind, left by those who made the prints. The location of the footprints added another layer of intrigue. They were situated at the edge of a narrow path that wound through a field of jagged crystals toward a range of dark, menacing mountains in the distance. It was as though whoever had left them was heading somewhere specific, their destination hidden within the forbidding terrain. The team's instruments detected weak electromagnetic pulses emanating from the mountain range, faint but persistent. It was as if the mountains themselves were calling out, an invitation or a warning to follow the trail. Despite the danger, the researchers couldn't ignore the possibility that the answers to this mystery lay at the end of that. The footprints were not merely a discovery, they were a challenge to everything humanity believed about its past. As the team prepared to venture further into the unknown, they knew they were on the brink of something monumental. But the planet watched them with an unseen presence, its hostile silence a reminder that HFY 7 did not easily give up its secrets. With the footprints as their first major clue, the team pressed forward into the jagged mountains of HFY 7. The path before them was treacherous, winding between massive spires of crystalline rock that reached toward the clouds. The terrain was shifting, sections of the ground would crack open beneath their feet or collapse with a thunderous noise. The air was thick with the smell of sulfur, and the planet's magnetic fields interfered with their instruments, disrupting communications and sensors. Despite the harsh conditions, the team was drawn to the mountain range. The weak electromagnetic pulses they had detected earlier grew stronger, the closer. It was clear that something was sending signals from deep within the peaks, and the team couldn't ignore the possibility that it was the key to unlocking the mystery of the footprints. As they progressed, the symbols became more apparent. At first, they were hard to see, faint etchings carved into the dark rock. But as they climbed higher, the symbols grew more prominent. They were intricate, composed of lines and curves that resembled a form of written language. The team assumed it must be some ancient form of communication, but the symbols were unfamiliar, too complex to be deciphered at first. Using high-resolution scanners and AI algorithms, the team attempted to analyze the symbols, searching for patterns or repeating structures that could offer clues. What they discovered shocked them. The symbols were not random. They shared a distinct mathematical order that resembled the types of patterns found in ancient human writing, yet they were more advanced. One of the team's theoretical physicists, Dr. Tavis Nurin, noticed a curious pattern within the symbols. There were subtle differences that indicated they were not just a representation of language, but perhaps a form of advanced mathematics. This clue led them to believe that the creators of these symbols possessed knowledge far beyond what humanity had achieved in its early days. The symbols seemed to form a blueprint of some kind. There were indications of geometric shapes and lines that didn't match anything found on Earth. The more they studied them, the more it became clear that the language was not just a means of communication, but a map, a blueprint that could point to something hidden deep within the mountains. The mountain itself seemed to thrum with energy, vibrating as though the symbols had awakened a force that had long been dormant. The pulses they had detected earlier grew stronger, and the team began to fear that whatever this force was, it had the potential to alter the very fabric of reality. The symbols were clearly intentional signs left by a civilization that possessed technology and knowledge far beyond the primitive tools and skills of ancient humans. The more they discovered, the deeper the questions became. Who had created these symbols? And why were they here? What connection did they have to the footprints? The answers felt just out of reach, but the team knew they were getting closer to something that could change everything humanity believed about its past, its future, and its place in the universe. As the team delved deeper into the mountain range, the symbolic patterns grew more complex and intricate. The crystalline rock beneath their feet became less stable, and the air grew colder as they ascended. The pulses of electromagnetic energy were now constant, beating like a pulse that echoed through the mountains, growing louder the closer they came to the source. It felt as if the mountain itself was responding to their presence, as if the symbols were leading them towards something terribly ancient and unseen. Their focus shifted from the symbols to the mountain's depths. As they scrambled over boulders and navigated narrow passages, the team began to notice something unusual, odd geometric structures emerging from the rock face. They were strange, angular shapes that seemed impossible to form naturally. It was as if the mountain itself had been carved, shaped by forces beyond human understanding. Some of these structures resembled the peaks of ancient temples or pyramids, but they were unlike anything recorded in human history. The shapes were monolithic and towered over the team, their facades smooth yet mysterious. The symbols they had found before were now scattered across these structures, reinforcing the idea that they were parts of a greater fabric. But what design? And who had created it? The air around the structures grew denser, heavy with its static charge that prickled the skin. The team's sensors continued to act erratically, reporting erroneous data and flickering displays. The anomalous pulses they had detected became almost deafening, the energy field thick and unrelenting. The team knew they were approaching a threshold beyond which their technology could no longer function. Despite the danger, they pressed on. The footprints were still fresh in their minds, a constant reminder of something long past but persistently present. They realized that the footprints were not merely a trail to follow, but a message that connected these symbols and structures. There was a purpose to all of this, a story waiting to be unraveled. It was Dr. Solvex who first suggested that the footprints and the symbols might hold a key to an ancient understanding, one that could unlock the secrets of humanity's origins. The symbols appeared to form a map, but not a physical one. Instead, they felt like the representation of knowledge, a blueprint of ideas that had long since vanished from recorded history. As they reached a massive plateau surrounded by the towering peaks, the team stumbled upon a strange device, a monolithic artifact embedded in the ground. Its surface was smooth and reflective, pulsating with the same electromagnetic energy that had been growing stronger. The symbols were etched into its surface, and for the first time, they could feel its presence. It seemed to toe thrum in response to their approach, as if it were waiting for something. Dr. Nurin ran a scan over the artifact, and what they saw shocked Tim. The device was not just a monument, but a gateway, a piece of technology that extended beyond what human imagination could comprehend. The readings indicated that it was active, sending out a signal that resonated deep into the fabric of the planet's core. For a moment, silence fell over the team as they contemplated the implications. The footprints, the symbols, and this device were connected. But what they still didn't know was why they were connected and what it all meant for humanity. The artifact pulsed with a steady, low hum, its energy field growing stronger by the second. The symbols carved into its surface seemed to shift slightly, resembling a form of ancient code that defied easy interpretation. Dr. Nurin could feel his heart racing as he attempted to decipher its meaning. The device was alive in a way that was beyond the scope of their understanding. Dr. Solvex approached the artifact carefully, her mind rushing with the possibilities. She could sense that they were on the edge of a revelation, but the answers were still out of reach. The footprints, the symbols, the pulses, everything was tied together, but they didn't yet have the full picture. What had caused this technology to remain dormant for thousands of years? And why now, on Scilarus 7, was it beginning to awaken? As the team gathered around the artifact, the energy field grew more intense. They could feel the tension in the air, the weight of their discovery pressing down on them. Dr. Solvex knew they were facing something that could alter the very foundations of human knowledge. The footprints led them here, but the artifact now seemed to be offering more than they could handle. Dr. Nurin continued to scan the artifact, his hands trembling as he worked. The symbols flickered across his display, their complexity increasing exponentially. The device seemed to be transmitting information, but what was it saying? The data pouring in made no sense. It was as though the artifact was speaking in a language that defied human logic, a language of knowledge that preceded any known civilization. Suddenly, the symbols began to flash, faint pulses of uplight dancing across the surface. A pattern emerged, a sequence of codes that couldn't be decoded in real time. Dr. Nurin realized they were witnessing something beyond their capacity to understand. It was as if the artifact was communicating with them on a level they couldn't grasp. Dr. Solvex stepped closer, her thoughts racing. The footprints, the symbols, and the artifact were all pieces of a puzzle that refused to fit together. She could feel the connection, but it was fragmentary, elusive. The team had expected clarity answers, but instead, they were confronted with more questions than ever before. As the pulses grew more intense, the artifact released a sudden surge of energy. A low, resonant tone filled the air, vibrating through the mountains. The team staggered back, grasping at tear, suits at static electricity crackled around them. It was as if the planet itself had responded to the artifact's activation, its magnetic field shifting, the ground trembling beneath them. Dr. Solvex knew they were standing at the edge of discovery. The artifact was a gateway, but to where? And what role did the footprints play in all of this? The answers seemed just beyond their reach, teasing them with possibilities too mind-boggling to fully grasp. Solaris 7 was no longer a forgotten planet, it was a catalyst for something far greater than they had ever imagined. As the team stood before the pulsating artifact, the energy field continued to tutor them, creating a sense of unease and wonder. Dr. Nurin's scans were failing to keep up with the artifact's signals. Its complexity was far beyond any algorithm they had at their disposal. The symbols on the surface seemed to shift and change on their own, glowing with a bright, otherworldly light that made impossible to focus. Dr. Solvex could feel the weight of the discovery bearing down on her. The footprints were a clear trace, a confirmation of humanity's presence on this hostile planet, but the artifact offered no answers. It was a portal to a reality she could hardly comprehend, and the implications were terrifying. What if it was not a portal but a warning? A message meant to keep whatever civilization had built it long ago hidden. Despite the growing dread, Dr. Solvex couldn't shake the conviction that they were on the brink of something monumental. The footprints were not just evidence of human presence, they were proof of something far larger, a civilization that had arrived on Solaris 7 long before humanity had gained the ability to explore space. The symbols, the artifact, and the pulses of energy were pieces of a larger puzzle that might contain the truth about humanity's origin. The team had assumed that the footprints were evidence of ancient human explorers, but what if they were wrong? The technology embedded in the artifact was far beyond human capability at that time. The symbols didn't match anything from known human history. The team couldn't shake the feeling that they were dealing with a mystery that had surpassed the boundaries of time. Dr. Nurin's voice broke the silence. These symbols, he said, his hands trembling as he examined the scans. They're not just random. They're a blueprint, a design of something vast, but it's not a design we can understand. His eyes fixed on the pulsating artifact. This device, it's a gateway, but to what? What is it leading us to? Dr. Solvex grasped his arm gently. We've followed the footprints across an impossibly hostile world, she sighed. But what if the footprints are just a trace? A sign of something greater that we can't see yet. The energy from the artifact began to intensify, pulses spreading outward, radiating across the mountains. The team could feel the planet responding, its atmosphere growing thicker, more unpredictable. The magnetic fields wavered, distorting their sensors beyond repair. The artifact seemed to be calling out, drawing energy from somewhere deep within the planet. As the pulses grew more intense, the symbols flared brighter, forming a geometric pattern that resembled a network of lines connected to the peaks above. It was as if the symbols were part of a vast, interconnected web, a map of something they could only begin to imagine. Dr. Nurin gripped his scanner tight. These signals, he said, see Psi, not just from the artifact. They're coming from the planet itself. Solaris 7 is sending a signal, and this artifact is amplifying it. The team stood in silence, weighed down by the implications. They could no longer deny that Solaris 7 was more than just a forgotten world. It was a place that had held secrets for millennia, and now, those secrets were beginning to reveal themselves. Dr. Solvex's mind raced. The footprints, the symbols, and the artifact were all leading them somewhere. But to what end? And what would they find when they finally reached the truth? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Sci-Fi Horizon Stories for more thrilling tales of science fiction and adventure.